This video was made possible thanks to CuriosityStream. Watch TLDR ad-free and get exclusive videos from us by signing up to the CuriosityStream Nebula Bundle deal at curiositystream.com/TLDR UK. I'm guessing by the fact that you're watching this video that you're probably pretty engaged with the online space and have strong feelings about online safety and freedoms. It's an ongoing balance between protecting young and vulnerable people while also ensuring a free and open web. And when it comes to this balance, the UK has had a difficult track record, with the government trying on a number of occasions to limit or change access to online and adult material. The latest attempt is the Online Safety Bill, which is what we're explaining in this video. And we're going to split this into two parts. Firstly, we're going to explain the Online Safety Bill and how it's going to change online activity. Then we're going to look at the two main criticisms that have been levied against it, that it will interfere with freedom of speech, and that the proposed porn ban will end up being ineffective. Alright, so let's get to the first part of this video. What's actually in the bill? Well, we should say we don't actually know for sure. The bill hasn't actually been presented to Parliament yet, and what we do know has been gleaned from a draft bill published in May of 2021, a joint committee report, and a couple of announcements by the Department for Digital, Culture, Media and Sport. It's possible then that the bill will look fairly different by the time it actually becomes law, but we thought it was worth doing a video on anyway because the bill is already causing a fair bit of controversy. Anyway, as the bill stands, it's essentially going to do three things. Firstly, it's going to redefine what counts as an illegal communications offence, essentially what you can and cannot post online. Now, this isn't in the draft bill, but these recommendations were made in a Law Commission report published in July of 2021, which the government has since said that they'll include in the bill. For the moment though, online communications are regulated by three pieces of legislation. Section 1 of the Malicious Communications Act 1988, which criminalises communications that are indecent, grossly offensive, a threat or false, and where the sender's purpose is to cause distress or anxiety. There's also Section 127, subsection 1 of the Communications Act, which criminalises sending messages via a public electronic communications network which are grossly offensive or of an indecent, obscene or menacing character, as well as subsection 2 of the same act, which criminalises sending a message which is known to be false with the purpose of causing annoyance, inconvenience or needless anxiety. Unfortunately though, this legislation just isn't really fit for purpose. For starters, it's confusing. A lot of these criteria overlap. What's the difference between the anxiety mentioned in the Malicious Communications Act and the needless anxiety in the Communications Act? And some of these terms, like indecent or grossly offensive, are just a bit vague. This legislation also over-criminalises some things and under-criminalises others. When it comes to over-criminalising, which basically means criminalising things that are clearly fine, the Malicious Communications Act criminalises sexting between consenting adults, because it's indecent, while subsection 2 criminalises communications which are merely annoying. When it comes to under-criminalising though, there's currently no criminal offence for abuse on a public forum, because it's often unclear who the message is directed at. To remedy these shortfalls, the Online Safety Bill is going to create three new online communications offences. The first is a new harms-based offence, which carries a maximum sentence of 2 years. There are three criteria for this offence. Firstly, the communication is likely to cause harm. Secondly, the defendant intends to cause harm. And thirdly, the defendant doesn't have a, quote, reasonable excuse. The second is a new false communications offence, which carries a maximum sentence of 51 weeks. Again, there are three criteria here. Firstly, the defendant knows that their communications are false. Secondly, the defendant intends to cause non-trivial harm. And thirdly, the defendant doesn't have a reasonable excuse. The third is a new threatening communications offence, which carries a maximum sentence of 5 years. This time there are two criteria. 1. The defendant conveys a threat of serious harm, where serious harm includes grievous bodily harm, rape, or serious financial harm. And 2. The defendant actually intends the victim to fear the threat will be carried out, or was reckless in this respect. As well as these 3 new offences, the bill will also create new offences for cyber flashing, sending flashing images to epileptics, hoax calls to emergency services, and so-called pile-on harassment. So that's how the bill will change online communications law. But it actually intends to do 2 more things, and the second is to do with duty of care. Previously, companies like Facebook only had to take down illegal content once they'd been notified of it. The new duty of care will require companies like Facebook to monitor their platforms for not just illegal content, but also, quote, harmful content. What counts as harmful will be decided by Ofcom, who are expected to carry out regular risk assessments. Online companies will then be required to proactively take down any content that relates to anything on this list. This means that companies can be convicted for hosting any of this material, even if no one's notified them about it. Instead, they're going to have to somehow proactively censor all of this sort of content. And if a company fails to comply with their duty of care, then they can be fined up to 10% of their annual turnover, or blocked from operating in the UK altogether. For context, that would mean a maximum fine of about £10 billion for Facebook. And the bosses of these websites could be held criminally liable if they fail to cooperate with Ofcom. The third thing the bill's going to do is stop children from accessing pornography by requiring any sites that host adult material to perform age verification checks. In the draft version of this bill, this age verification process was only going to apply to commercial porn sites, but the government announced it would also apply to basically any site that hosts a significant amount of adult material, like Reddit or Twitter. So that's basically what's in the bill. But what about the criticisms? Well, as we said in the intro, there are basically 2. The first criticism has to do with freedom of speech. As we mentioned earlier, the Online Safety Bill will require online companies to monitor and take down legal but harmful speech. To reiterate, this means that online companies will have to take down content that's just, quote, harmful, even if it's not illegal. Privacy campaigners have argued that this legislation will have a massive chilling effect on free speech, because what counts as harmful is pretty vague. Which means that social media companies, who will likely err on the side of caution, will end up taking down basically anything controversial. Now, it's worth saying that the Joint Committee report talks a bit about an exemption for journalists, but A, we'll have to see whether this actually makes it into the final bill, and B, in this world of decentralised media, the definition of journalist is pretty slippery. Take TLDR for example. Do we count as journalists in the same way as, say, Laura Kuenssberg? There's also the additional worry that this will end up giving too much power to the Silicon Valley tech companies, who have a somewhat controversial record when it comes to their censorship practices. The second criticism, though, concerns the age verification proposals. Essentially, while we might think that limiting children's access to porn is a good idea in principle, the government's age verification process might end up making things worse. There's a lot of porn on the internet, and the idea that the government is going to be able to require every porn site to do age verification is just laughable. And while requiring the big ones to do age verification might sound like a good idea, after all, it probably will reduce children's exposure to porn, it also runs the risk of pushing kids to smaller sites in the darker corners of the internet which don't have age verification, where both the content and the community are more extreme. So that's what's in the bill. All in all, it's a good idea in principle. Few people would deny that social media and porn need some sort of oversight, but questions remain as to its viability in practice. And if that's not enough TLDR for you, then you really ought to head over to Nebula. You might have heard of them before, but my creator friends and I have teamed up to build our own platform where we don't need to worry about demonetization or the algorithm. Over there, you can find all of our latest videos ad-free, and we're also starting to post exclusive Nebula Plus videos over there as well, with our first one already live. It's not just us either. All of our favourite educational creators are there too, like Wendover Productions, Real Life Law, Polymatter, Legal Eagle, Half as Interesting, and many more. But wait, we said this video was brought to you by CuriosityStream, right? Well, as a platform full of the best documentaries available online, they naturally love educational creators like us. And as such, we've worked out a deal whereby if you sign up for CuriosityStream using the link in the description, you'll also get access to Nebula for free. That's not a trial either. You'll have access for as long as you're a CuriosityStream member. To make things even better, for a limited time, they're offering a deal where you can get 26% off their already low price, making an entire year of both services less than $15. $15 for all of your favourite educational creators, as well as superb documentaries on CuriosityStream. Signing up at curiositystream.com/TLDR UK or clicking the link below not only gets you the deal, but it also directly supports TLDR and other educational content creators on the platform, as well as getting you original content and an ad-free experience. As always, a big thank you to our backers on Patreon too, who help us make videos like this one. And if you want to see your name at the end of videos, then you too can back us on Patreon. The link to that is in the description.